Good afternoon, everybody. It's been a time since last we chatted. My name is Dylan, and I am coming to you live from Codename Entertainment's constantly Lysoled streaming closet in beautiful, overcast Victoria, BC, Canada. Before we get into this week's show, huge shout outs to Erica and Jay for helping to moderate and co-produce this stream alongside me. As well, shout outs to our friends at D&D for hosting us on the official D&D Twitch. It is and will always be an honor to be here. And on that note, actually, because next week is D&D Live, I'm pretty sure we won't be hosted on the D&D Twitch on Thursday next week, and because they have some programming planned. So I'm getting pretty excited for that myself. But it's good to see you. Hello there, Aquira and DC Lasser, Glacier, Garwar. Hi, welcome. Yeah, we didn't end up having a stream last week, but I'm back and I'm here to kind of have a stream now. I had the good fortune of getting to connect with Kim Richards, who plays Nova V'ger on High Rollers Aerois. But unfortunately, Kim is not able to join me live on stream for an interview because they happen to do their High Rollers Curse of Strahd campaign on Thursday evenings in the UK now. So they will just be finishing that up, which makes it kind of hard to schedule an interview for what would immediately be right afterwards. So we chatted last week briefly. Yes, pre-recorded interview, but I will remain to answer your questions, I will get that started now, and then we can, talk about some other stuff after. So enjoy. There we go. It says we're live.
Hey. Okay.
Hi, welcome. Welcome to what will eventually be the Idle Champions weekly live stream. You can count yourself among a pretty good company. I think one of my last phone interview was with Jim Zub, and before that it was Joe Manganello. So, yeah.
Oh, that's setting the bar real high. So we're going to be dropping it a little bit.
It's not that high because while Joe is wonderful in many ways, we were on his laptop cam in his office, and it was like, whereas
really?
I can tell from looking at your setup that you know how to stream and that your audio is good and the camera is well set up. So, so there's also that.
Swings and roundabouts. And roundabouts.
Usually the first question we start with is how somebody found D&D, like what your D&D story is, I guess. So,
okay.
What is the D&D story for Kim Richards?
I guess I'm kind of spoiled, right? I had a slightly different journey to most people. So I did play it a long time ago, back when I was 14, 15, which I figured out was actually, no, I'm not going to say. You can guess. It was a while ago. But I didn't really, it was only a couple of sessions, because we ran into the usual problems of time and, not managed to get together as much as we wanted to. So I didn't really remember a lot. But being a part of the Yogscast, and knowing people like Chris Trott and Mark Humes, Mark and Trott kind of came together and were like, we want to do some Dungeons and Dragons, and we want to try live streaming it and see where it goes. So they came and asked me because I knew that I was interested in it. Mm-hmm. And so I would say my first proper game was live on air 4 or 5 years ago, the very first live stream of High Rollers. So there's me just relearning the whole thing live on air and being like, what dice is this one? Which one is the D? That's a D20, and that one's a D. Okay, how do I roll for? What does it say on this sheet? AC. So that was me. But yeah, so ever since then, I think we're coming up to 4.5 years old now. Jeez. Yeah, every Sunday been playing Dungeons and Dragons for 3 hours, for the last 4.5, 5 years, and that's my journey, really.
And you guys are playing on Thursdays now too, right?
Yes, yes. So what with everything happening in the world and getting locked down, normally a lot of us are quite busy in the evenings, but we suddenly just discovered we had loads of free time in the evenings and nowhere really to go. And we talked about doing Curse of Strahd for a long time, especially me being a big horror fan.
Hmm.
So yeah, we stream Thursday nights now, Curse of Strahd, and then Sundays is our Aerois homebrew campaign. Plug, plug, plug.
I remember just probably a week or two before you guys started, maybe longer, Mark asking on Twitter how like what's everybody's favorite 5e campaign? It's just like Curse of Strahd. This just like torrent of like we all love this one the most. And I'm like, I wonder if they're going to start a game, and then sure enough.
I missed that one, but yeah, I like it. I like that subtle kind of like floating the kind of ideas that. So if we were to do something, what would you all like to see us do?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I think there's such a wonderful, like, not just like, it's like a time honored appeal to it because like it's got inspiration for everything from Lovecraft to to Dracula to like everything, all this gothic horror. You can put as much other types of horror as you want into it easily, and it fits very nicely. So it's
definitely.
it's a really
And
fun
who doesn't
setting.
love vampires? Like who does not love vampires? If
People
you
who
don't
have
love
yet
them,
to be enthralled by them, and they just don't know what they're missing out on. Yeah,
exactly.
we should all be Renfield. Uh, so if the High Rollers game was your first, so you've only had a handful of characters that you've played.
You say that, but with all the mini series we've done and like
Oh
some
yeah,
of
I
the
guess that's true. I
one-shots,
didn't even think of that. Yeah.
we racked them up. Like
Yeah.
I've got, I think 5 or 6 characters now.
Okay, that's
Something
not bad.
like that.
I was wondering, I guess because there's a sort of almost an evolution you expect to see when people play D&D characters. Like their first one is like, this is hero me. And then like the next one is like, this is the opposite of hero me. And then after that, they're like, I'm going to try something different. And then eventually you get to, I'm going to roll the dice and whatever that is what I am.
We'll just see. We'll just see.
Yeah.
Well, so my first character was definitely Edgelord McEdgelordian. Like it was the most like, darkness, no parents, like I'm so sad and like I hate everybody and I'm like just so tortured. And for the record, I love her. She's called Juto. She's a tiefling monk. And I love her. I love her to bits. Like my first proper character, but she definitely was an asshole. Like, and she definitely was like, the Batman backstory, like so sad, so much, sadness in her life. And then the next character that I created was Kalar, who I created for our Tomb of Annihilation one shot. Mm-hmm. And she was the complete opposite, half orc, barbarian, just loves everything and just loves life, loves fighting, loves flirting, loves looking for artifacts, was like an Indiana Jones kind of like, I just love this character. So yeah, definitely like you say, I went from one directly to the other. It's been a wild ride.
Yeah. So then by the time you reach Nova, because I find that people often like to express parts of themselves through their characters, where does Nova come from for you?
Star Trek. Big Star Trek nerd. So knowing that Nova was going to be our next like big campaign character, I wanted to carry on like kind of being the polar opposite to Juto in that she was naive. She had, a normal family. She was passionate about her studies and curious about absolutely passionate and curious about the world and anything and everything. And I am a huge Star Trek nerd, massive, like sci-fi, just love it. Just space, man. I physically want to be in space. SpaceX, they're all up there now. And I'm like, whenever, that's the first private space flight. I'm like, as soon as they launch commercial, I'm like, I'm saving up for that. I'm signing up. Like, put me on that rocket. Send me to the moon. Yeah. So I definitely, Nova is that, right? Nova is that little sci-fi Star Trek nerd. I mean, even her outfit is based on Star Trek Discovery, the Star Trek Discovery outfits. Because it was no coincidence that Star Trek Discovery was, season 2 was out just at the same time as we were creating these characters. Yeah.
I have to look at the design now. I can't pull it up, but now I'm like, thinking about it, I'm like, wait, you have to like
Yeah,
the
it's the
outfit
blue and gold and like that slightly military style.
yeah.
And yeah, well, her name as well, Nova V'ger. V'ger is
Star Trek
I
One
guess a character, yeah,
or motion
from the
picture.
motion picture, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I'm trying to think. Character is a sentient satellite, a character, but there you go.
Well, I suppose
Um,
that kind of depends on where you fall on the whole AI thing, right?
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
was it a person or not? As
Mm.
we describe a person. That's a rabbit hole I could dive down for way
yeah.
too long. 'Cause I love Star Trek, have seen all Star Trek. I'm very excited for Discovery Season 3 to
Yeah.
show up at some point. But understandably, the production for it, the post-production is
It's
a
a
little
bit
slow.
bit stuck right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah. Did you like Picard?
I didn't.
Oh,
I
what about
didn't.
it?
I I liked it in that I just automatically love anything that is more Star Trek, right? More of the world, more of the aliens that we know and love, more of Starfleet. I felt that it had really bad pacing issues.
Hmm.
I felt that it suffered a little bit from financial issues. Like, there was some special effects that looked like just copy paste. It felt a bit shonky towards the end. And I thought that like just some topics and story themes were just really rushed and then just forgotten about. Just to have like a really fun, silly episode or just rush into the kind of big action sequence at the end. And I think I missed Starfleet, right? I missed having Starfleet and I missed having that ethos of we are a diplomatic organization that's about exploration, about curiosity, about all of this. And I missed having that there and that kind of, space, the final frontier
Yeah.
atmosphere, right? And I get it. I get where they said it. I get that that's how they were pitching it, but it just didn't feel right for me. I don't know.
No, I don't blame you. Like I thoroughly enjoyed the experience of watching the series.
Yeah.
But when I stopped, like, I don't think I'm gonna rewatch it anytime soon. I would rather go back
No.
and watch my favorite episodes of TNG.
Yeah.
And when I
Yeah.
think about what I want to see out of an uplifting exploration Star Trek series, it's what they just announced with Anson Mount and Rebecca Romaine
Yes.
and
Yes. Yes.
Ethan
Yes.
Peck, I think the name of the actor who
Yeah.
plays Spock. Because they're going to play those new Discovery versions of themselves on the mission before Kirk and Spock's mission. I'm like, yes, that's what I
Yes,
want because
please.
Anson
Yes,
Mount
thank you.
killed it as Christopher Pike. He was so good. Not that
I
the others were
enjoyed that
bad,
part,
but
yeah.
they were.
Yeah.
He was that like brilliant, aspirational leader that you like to see at the helm of a ship, and he's not like jaded and horrible like
Yeah.
like they tend
And
to
it-
be these days because
Yeah, everyone's got PTSD. Everyone's got a horrible backstory.
Yeah.
And that's what I felt like with Picard, right? It was just like everyone was just awful and depressed and had this horrible thing about them.
Yeah.
And I was like, I miss it when it was just like, like Captain Janeway likes coffee.
Yeah. Although they tried to make that one more edgelordy, right? I don't know how much you read about Star Trek, but there was an article recently talking about how the showrunner wanted to stretch that like the Year of Hell episodes, like that two-parter
Oh,
where they're
yeah,
erasing
yeah.
timelines. That was going to be an entire season of like grim dark Voyager.
Oh my gosh.
And one of
that
the
is some
executive
of my
producers was
favorite
like,
episodes.
absolutely not. No, you're
Yeah.
not doing this.
We can't
Um,
make a whole season this miserable season.
Yeah, and I think at the same time as like DS9 was like the whole Dominion War was like that was every episode.
Pretty,
And it's
yeah,
like,
that was
we're not
pretty
doing
hardcore.
This. We're not doing serialized
Yeah.
Star Trek where it's dark, and it's like okay, if
Yeah,
only they'd
but then-
known they had to wait 20 years, and then all Star Treks would be
exactly.
dark.
Because I feel like that's where sci-fi is now, right? It's sci-fi is in this kind of like weenie, dark, gritty, realistic versions of the future, like with Altered Carbon, with Mars, with The Expanse. Like it's all really quite gritty and grim, and Westworld as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just like because I'm rewatching Deep Space Nine at the moment as well. And so we're just kind of towards the end, still sort of in the Dominion, the Dominion War, but so they've just got Deep Space Nine back.
Okay, yeah.
So it's kind of like the chill episodes after that, where they're like, okay, we've done a lot of serious stuff, we need some chill episodes now.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, like I miss that. I miss that sort of way. But then I guess it's a different kind of television, right? Back when we watched it when we were younger, it was like, you know, on every week, and like seasons were 25 episodes. And so you had that freedom to be like serious, fun, silly, triple episode. We're going to play baseball, you know, and then back to the kind of serious Cardassians are murdering us kind of.
And
vibe.
the occasional really deep, serious, emotional episode like the one, I'm forgetting the name of the episode right now, but the one where they're all playing 1920s writers and he's trying to publish a science fiction story about a black ship captain.
Yes.
And they're like, no.
So, yeah.
Which is...
Yeah, I just finished watching that, actually. That's the one that I just watched.
Possibly my favorite episode of any Star Trek, even though DS9 is not my favorite show, but that episode just floored me.
It's hard. It's a hard watch. But also it's kind of... I think it follows that Star Trek thing of breaking the barriers of that they had... four black actors that could push that storyline, right? That could actually have that conversation and have that opportunity to talk about the experience of living in New York in that period of time. And you know, just something that we consider as trivial now is like, this newspaper will not publish your story because you're black, you know. And I think that's one thing I love Star Trek for, is that it was always kind of pushing, well, you know, you look at original Star Trek, you know, the amount of diversity that you had on that. A woman, you know, a black woman, and then Russians and Japanese and all this, like, on a voyage together. Like, I think that's the thing that I always love about Star Trek. Wow, we've just turned this into a big old Star Trek love-a-thon.
we have time.
Welcome to Idle Champion Star Trek spin-off episode.
Yeah, right. I'm sure I'll get some feedback about it at some point, but nobody in our office hates Star Trek, and the feelings about Picard were kind of mixed, and the feelings about DS9 are pretty mixed in the office as well.
I think that's always the question, right? If you say, "What's your favorite Star Trek?" and like,
you're being judged. Yeah.
A lot of people get really kind of not snobby, but very kind of like they love to fight about Deep Space Nine, Next Gen, all that. Mine personally. You're all gonna hate me now.
Are you gonna say Enterprise?
Nova. No, I don't even remember it. I do not even remember Enterprise. I was gonna say Voyager. Because for me, very personally, you know, it came on when I was a teenager. And seeing a female captain and then being introduced to Seven of Nine and B'Elanna, like, it was just, for me, it was amazing to watch, right? Just like a female captain kicking ass, you know, and also the relationship between Janeway and Seven of Nine is one thing I've always found fascinating, as that kind of grew and developed over the whole show. So yeah, from a personal level, Voyager is definitely my favorite, although I can see why Deep Space Nine, with the whole war arc, like, that kind of captured so many people's, you know, hearts and imaginations. And then of course Next Gen.
People have rose-colored glasses about Next Gen. The first season is not as watchable as they remember.
It's such a disaster.
And then
Picard
Dr. Kowalski was not a good replacement for Dr. Crusher. Not that the actor was bad, she was great, but like... Yeah,
the character, I think. Yeah, crazy.
Although Measure of a Man is in the second season, so... True,
yeah. But I think first seasons are always wild, right? First seasons are always like trying to figure out what on earth are we doing here. Because like the first season of Voyager is a hot mess as well.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
With the Kazon and yeah.
Yeah, it was it wasn't my favorite Star Trek, because the thing I didn't like about Voyager was I can't stand Harry Kim as a character. He's just the worst Mary Sue, and I was just like, no. And I was a little bit offended by like the tepid and poorly researched depiction of a Native American character that Chakotay was. I thought was really weak. Yeah. And too many of their stories were like version 2.0 or 3.0 of TNG stories, like, and here's Q again, and here's you know, and like they just kept trying to call back, and whereas the episodes where Voyager was its own show, I really liked. Yeah, no, that's really fair. And actually that's something, because we rewatched Voyager last year. Just every year I rewatch a different series. But yeah, there was one thing that really annoyed me every time Chakotay was being and having his, like, you know, moment, and they would always play the panpipe music
And I was just like, it just became a thing between myself and my husband is we'd watch it and we'd be like, oh, take a drink. The panpipes have started up. Like, and I was like, it was just that era of television, right? Where it's like the ethnic ones speaking, play their ethnic music. It's like, come on, guys. Like, let's not.
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel that. I feel that.
It's
like, I think the boys in Voyager got a rough ride of it, right? With Paris and Harry Kim and Chakotay and Neelix as well. Oh God, Neelix, worst, like most toxic relationship ever. Neelix and Cass. Like I must admit, I watched that and I was like, oh my God, no.
Yeah. Well, it's because the show is so forward thinking for its era, but like every time a Star Trek comes out, it's a reflection of that era too, which is unfortunately why we keep having grimdark Star Treks. But I'm also glad that that they are consciously making the decision to do a hopeful, optimistic one with the next new show launch, and I hope it's good.
Yeah, I can't wait for the animated series as well. I haven't heard any updates on it recently, so I hope it's still happening. But there's that animated series too that's coming out, right?
For some reason, I was thinking that you meant the original animated series, like the one that was voiced by the original cast, which is actually fantastic because the episodes, because one, it's the same writers, but it's also like the cast is the original cast. So like it's Leonard Nimoy playing Spock, it's William Shatner playing Kirk. But all the stories are things that there's no freaking way they could have done with the TV show due to the budget. Like not a chance. Like there's just so like, but they're paced. They're almost like radio dramas. Like you don't even need to watch it.
Yeah,
it's pretty interesting. Anyways, I recommend giving them a watch if there's a
that's always been on my that's on my to-do list, like very long to-do list.
And they also they call back to stuff that was in the original series in really interesting ways. Like the Guardian of Forever episode was always my favorite one for the original broadcast series, but like the second episode of the animated series is also about it. I was like, what? And we have a streaming service in Canada called Crave that has everything that Star Trek has ever done is always a part of that package. Which is why I still have it.
You lucky people. That's another reason why I want to move to Canada, y'all.
Anyways, we should probably pivot away from 15-minute more minutes of Star Trek.
Woo!
So Nova is science fiction inspired. Maybe a little bit. Well, the design for Nova's abilities are all sci-fi, like research and development type stuff.
Yeah.
And then I think I remember one of the calls where you were talking to the design team about how to make Nova, and you were talking about the sci-fi flavor of her stuff. Like it's a D&D thing, but with a sci-fi spin. The one that comes to mind right now is how Tomb of Lephistus is now this sort of like shielding thing.
Holographic shield, Yeah,
which I thought was really inspired because it was one of those things where you reach a point as a D&D player where you're like, instead of saying I cast Eldritch Blast, you come up with your own character's version of it in your description.
Yeah.
And like, yes, you're rolling Eldritch Blast on the table or whatever.
Yeah.
But you're doing your thing. And you're using the framework of the rules to do the thing that makes sense for your character.
Yeah, the mechanics, Yeah,
which I thought was really, really cool.
Aw, thank you.
Where did the idea for Tiangong and Nova's kind of like, how did all those pieces come together, I guess is the word that I'm looking for.
I'm trying to think like who came up with the idea first, but so I knew that I wanted to create a Hexblade Warlock. Like I've actually got my original notebook here with all my ideas in it. And I knew that I wanted to create, so I narrowed it down and we went for a Hexblade Warlock because I was kind of drawn to the Pact. And I'd wanted to look at it for ages. But I didn't want to be like, you know, the artwork for Hexblade Warlock is the really grumpy looking tiefling covered in armor and just like, looking like a badass. But
ye old edgelord,
yeah, I didn't want to go back to Juto, right? I wanted this really happy, curious academic character. So we came up, was it Mark who came up with the idea? It may have been that it fit in with his, because Aerois, the campaign we do on Sunday is Aerois. It's a world that is written and created by Mark Humes. and it is quite sci-fi. It's like I've always thought of it as like high fantasy. So you know, like that kind of Final Fantasy sort of vibe where it's, you know, fantasy world, but there are sci-fi elements like airships. Like, well, in Final Fantasy VIII, y'all go out into the moon. You know, there's gun blades and things like that. I've always thought it's like that kind of mix. So he had created this race called the Eterna, which is a sentient race that can turn into weapons and armor. And they, you know, they're part of this whole huge, massive world that Mark has created. And I think that was it. That was like, I was like, well, wouldn't it be amazing if her Hexblade, like her Pact of the Blade patron was an Eterna? And I think that's kind of where it just went from. I came up with the name Tiangong because it's the name of the first Chinese space station. And also it literally translates as Heavenly Palace. So that's quite, what's the word? Like that's heavily in Chinese astrological history and culture. And yeah, and then Mark just rolled with. I did not expect Tiangong to be like a really powerful. Like, turns out Tiangong's like part of this thing called the triumvirate, the Eternal Triumvirate, which is like these powerful, like the leaders of the race. And I was like, oh damn, I've just got one in my hand here, just waving it around, like, you know, cutting my butter. But it turns out that's what I've got. But that would be too powerful, right, for me to have as a level 3 character. Mm-hmm. So that was where the idea came in, that it was fractured, that Nova had found a piece of it in a crashed alien skiff, because they're used to power the enemy, Starbane. Oh god, scary Starbane. He's our big bad guy. Shards of the Eterna are used to power his ships, his spaceships. So in the lore, Nova finds a fragment of this in a crashed alien ship when she first goes out exploring, and it calls to her because it needs help coming back together. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that was a really long way to answer that. Sorry. Well, but yeah, that's how we came about with it.
But like putting on my DM cap on, it's like, well, if you find shards at the right rate, it won't be too overpowered by the time you hit 20, right?
Yeah. And to be honest, it's turned out to be a little bit of an albatross. Like, it's turned out to be a little bit stressful because in a campaign with 5 players and so much stuff going on, mm-hmm. one of Nova's... So if Nova wasn't in this campaign, if she was just traveling on her own, her mission would be to collect all the shards and try and reform Tiangong. But obviously in a party of 5, we've got loads of other things to do, and we've gone on so many other quests, and we have so many other diversions. So I actually only have 2 pieces right now, and we've been playing this game for 2 years. But we have some things. Oh, and we found out that the big bad guy had 3 of the shards. So go fish. But we've got some other ideas on things we can do. So yeah, it should be interesting to see what happens.
That's so funny. I mean, you know, he's the DM. He could always be like, you trip and you look down, it's a shard, you know, like,
what?
You know, I don't know if he would do that, but
no, I think Mark would rather chew his own foot off than do something like that.
There are always ways. I've actually seriously considered in one of the campaigns I run of having like just something fall out of the sky, but to make it an event. But like, it really is just like a weapon that falls out of the sky. You're like, what? Why is that here?
That's a cool idea. Is it? But then you could be like, is it blessed? Is it a weapon from the gods? Like, you know, or is it a sign? And yeah, that's cool. I like that.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's as corny as, oh, there's a sword. You should pick it up. Like,
true. But I challenge all the DMs and players out there to play a game with absolutely 0 corny moments. Like, I don't think it happens, right?
I love them. I live for them. Oh man.
Yeah, because you want some fun. You want some like that movie moment, you know. So
or you want you're waiting for an excuse for one of your NPCs to be a caricature of something that everybody knows about, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, like last week I RP'd a shopkeeper who just I was like not really I was not a great night for ideas, and so I was just like, yeah, and you come up and he's like, hey, and they're like. Even though I didn't name him, they just started calling him the Fawns. And now they're like, we should go back to the Fawns for more things. And I'm like, oh my god. Just because in that moment I'm like, that was what I defaulted to for some reason. I never even watched that show. But
don't you even love it as a DM though when your players pick up on like an NPC that you're just like, oh, I haven't. I got like one sentence about them, and I've just pulled their voice and their mannerisms out of my bum, and now the players are like, no, we have written an entire backstory about this person. We need to bring them with us. They need to follow us everywhere. They need to come with us. Like, they're now our best friend.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do that a lot. Yeah. we're the worst.
Well, yeah. I don't know. Tom had a lot to say about Smeek when we talked to him.
Yeah, that's what I had in mind. I bet, yeah, he must have, like, about the time that Quill came out, he must have treated this as a therapy session for Smeek, right?
I think about the time Quill came out was just after Smeek came back as a ghost.
Right.
Something like that. And he was just like, he was just shaking his head about it. And we were like, on our end, we're like, should we make Smeek a familiar that like shows up and just like bugs Quill?
Please do. Please do.
Maybe someday. We'll have to talk to Mark about it.
Yeah. Don't talk to Tom about it. Don't let Tom have any say in it. Just
I think technically it would be Mark's decision, so
yeah.
we would have to ask
yeah, because
him.
it would be Mark's IP. But just don't involve Tom in it. Tom gets no say in it.
He can get a say in what the Quill's facial expression is if this
angry, sad,
so
broken.
if we gave you a goblin familiar, how would you react? He's like, we'll do that.
Yeah. It'd be kind of hard to wrinkle a beak, like like.
I think I don't know. I picture it kind of like how like a can can of flex just a little bit.
Oh yeah.
Like I don't know how hard an Aarakocra's beak is, but like maybe it's just kind of like it just kind of crumples in a little bit, like a Muppet, like Kermit does.
Yes.
When his face crunches in. That's what I'm picturing. So.
The ideas, man. Please, I will be your #1 best friend if you do that. We live to make Tom miserable.
Wow. Okay.
Love you, Tom. Love you, Tom.
Oh man. So it's funny. Do you find, because now that you guys have 2 shows, like, do you find it at all a challenge to go back and forth between the characters?
So we've been running Strahd for about 9 weeks now, and I think for me, because I'm playing a cleric in Strahd, and I've never played a healer. I'm only starting to dabble in spellcasters now. So my first spellcaster, I guess, was Nova with being a warlock. But I feel like warlocks are pretty easy, right? You don't have to prepare spells. You just kind of throw them out, and then it's like, oh, I'm tired now, short rest, back. And yeah, whereas a cleric, oh my god, like prepared spells, and and I think that's the thing for me is at the moment I'm so still trying to wrap my head around playing a cleric, and going from a more offensive kind of character to a like I'm just gonna lurk back here and just pew, healing word, pew, I think it's just getting my head around that mechanically, and character wise. Yeah, I was having this thing actually where I was about to say something and I was like, oh wait, no, Nova would say that, and then I said something as no, and I was like, no, Shadow would say it. So yeah, I definitely am crossing the streams a little bit.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned the preparing spells, because that's the thing about clerics and druids, and you're just like, today I have my choice of everything. What are we going to do today?
Yeah.
Does the party have any idea what we're doing?
Yeah,
and then you start picking
awful, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, I didn't realize just how many spells you had access to.
Yeah.
And I am a chronic overthinker, right? I overthink everything. So, like, even when I level up Nova with her, like, 2 spell slots, like, I'm there reading D&D Beyond, just like, okay, but if I do this and I do this. And now I've got all these spells at my disposal that can change every time I have oh no, no. So I'm trying to exercise this new, like, screw it mentality of like, meh, I got it, and if I don't got it, I got meh.
They're like, ask me tomorrow.
Yeah. It's hard though. I'm just like, oh, but maybe if we're in this, I need this, and if we're in this, I need. Oh god, I did not expect this much stress, but good stress.
What domain did you end up going with your cleric, actually? I don't think I know that.
Grave.
Domain, okay.
Yes. I figured that would be very useful in Strahd.
Ultra mega clutch healers are always
Yeah.
appreciated.
Yeah, I think as well, knowing our group, I was eyeing up the ability where you can I can't remember the name of it, but you can heal someone who's on 0 hit points, and you that spell does max healing. And I was like, yeah, they're gonna need that. they're gonna 100% need that. Let's see if I got it. It's not Path to the Grave. It's
let's see.
It is Divine Domain, Grave Domain, Circle of Mortality.
Yeah, it's the first ability.
Yeah, so you restore maximum hit points instead of rolling the dice with healing spells to a creature with 0 HP. And then you also learn Spare the Dying, which you can cast as a bonus action at a range of 30 foot. And I was like, knowing our guys, we're going to need that. We're going to need it a lot. And we have needed it a lot.
Yeah, no, it's very cool. I almost played one for my the Tomb of Annihilation campaign we just finished a few months ago. But I ended up going with a Death Domain, because that was my edgy character. Well, sorry, that was one of my edgy characters. And I had a lot of fun with that too. But I mean, fighting lots of zombies in Chult.
Makes
sense, right? Surprising amount of
Yeah.
zombies. Yeah.
Yeah. Turn undead is we need that.
Holy, was it useful many, many, many times. But also in Barovia, like the character I played in our we had an Office Curse of Strahd campaign, which we haven't played in forever because lockdown.
Ooh.
But
Yay!
But I played a Hexblade Warlock in that who died.
The roller coaster of emotions there.
Yeah, it was an intense moment. And then the replacement was a rogue sorcerer hybrid, which is weird. But like,
I can't get my head around sorcerers. Like, I read it and I'm just like, oh no, I've gone cross-eyed.
Oh, it's pretty straightforward. They're bullshit. Yeah, they can do so much unfair stuff. Meta magic is so powerful. Oh my god. Because like I've crippled this one in a way in that there's the 3 levels of swashbuckler. Because the lady was like this sort of like pirate captain. Well, she claimed she was a privateer, but she's more of a pirate than a privateer. So she had like 3 levels of swashbuckler, which allows you to use your charisma and your initiative. But then she's also got max dex and max charisma at the point because we're like level 12. So she gets plus 10 to initiative rolls, which is fun.
That's disgusting.
Oh,
that
it's so
disgusting.
Good. It's so good. It's the second best initiative I've ever had on a character. But
don't you hate being first though? You're just like, okay, you're up.
No, not at all. Yeah. I love being first.
Okay, fair.
At least with this character.
Again, indecisive, really indecisive. I'm like, oh, I could do this or I could do this, and everyone's like, time, Kim. Time.
But like,
come on.
twinning, copying spells, or using spells as bonus actions, or like, there's just so much stuff that like allows you to just bend rules in D&D with them. That sorcerers are, like I constantly make the DM just go, and they're even worse. Like, for example, because I had been designing a healing sorcerer, like using the divine domain, just kind of like thinking about how I wanted to do it. But you can distance spell stuff that is normally by touch with that. So it's like you can cure wound somebody on the other side of the battlefield.
Yo, wow.
Yeah, but like using meta magic, but then you can also twin stuff, or you can bonus action stuff that you can't normally, and it's like it becomes the most difficult to deal with.
Yeah,
like
a pain in the
support
butt.
hybrid that. It's just sorcerers are really unfair. And then like you're like, oh, I'm out of spell slots. Well, I'm just going to use some sorcery points to make some more spell slots. It's
where does because Chart plays a sorcerer in High Rollers, so when you catch up with him about Lucius, whenever that happens at some point,
I can't specify a date later this year.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, so when you catch up with him, like, but he started doing some things because I'm gonna put this out. Charles a little bit rubbish, right? Well, no, he was, and he was just forgetting all of these things. And then there was like this session where he just seemed to remember everything, and he was like on fire. He was just like, yes, I'm going to do this, this, and this. And it was just like, bam, 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 dead. Oh, and I'm going to recharge. And we're going to go again. Bam, bam, bam. And I was like, where did this come from? Like, what happened? So yeah, even now when he's like, I think he's kind of finally wrapped his head around the full spectrum of things he can do.
Yeah.
Because he plays, again, a homebrew class that Mark created called a Dichromancy sorcerer. So he deals with color. And so I think he, in fairness to Trot, he's got a lot to get his head around, right? A lot to kind of learn and fiddle with. But I think he's really starting to kind of do that now. And so yeah, when we're in combat and I see Lucius do things, I'm like, whoa. And then yeah, it's like when you say, I'm going to use my sorcery points to recharge my spells, and I'm like, oh my god, that is that is unfair. I'm there with my Warlock 2 spell slots, like
yeah. But you only need a short break before you get them back, right?
Yeah,
So
that's in fairness to me.
Yeah. And if you want to do something really unfair, you can dip your sorcerer into Warlock for Eldritch Blast and the invocation that boosts it, and then you can you can't twin it, but you can cast it as a bonus action again.
Oh, that's nasty.
So you can be like, later on, you're like, and I fire my first 3 Eldritch Blasts at this guy, and then I quicken to cast another 3 Eldritch Blasts at this other guy, and like that's 6 attacks, and then like it's just some stuff that's just kind of.
You've given me ideas now.
Yeah, well, sorry, Mark. But yeah, it's you get some pretty creative uses of things that are a challenge as a DM to deal with.
I bet, yeah. Because that's the thing is like Mark and I have always spoken that if Nova were to ever lose Tiangong, for whatever reason, like maybe it gets destroyed, maybe it gets taken away from her, maybe she finally manages to piece it back together and it goes off to do its kind of leadership duties. What are we going to do about Nova because she suddenly doesn't have a patron? So yeah, we were talking about things to do that. I think we were looking at things like turning her into an artificer. She takes the things that she's learnt from traveling with Tiangong, and because she's a creator and she's a scientist and all this, she could start putting that into physical creations. But now I'm like, sorcerer.
And now you can be Iron Man as an artificer.
Yeah, pretty much.
I tell you, I DM an Iron Man right now, and I hate it. Yeah, they are so hard to deal with. Oh man. Yeah, because they get their like shock gauntlets. This player is playing a tanky version because they have a tank version and a non-tank version. And the tank one can impose disadvantage on attacks against targets other than them, while doing thunder damage, while giving itself temporary hit points and shielding and all this stuff. And I'm just like, every time I'm like, you're trivializing a lot of stuff that should be dangerous, and it's driving me mental. But yeah, they're awesome.
Yeah,
artificers are very cool. Yeah. I was happy
that
they added them.
That's something I might look into. Like, I haven't looked into it too much at the moment because I'm pretty invested in being a warlock. But yeah, maybe depends how the campaign goes.
Warlock's fun. I told my DM, I'm like, if by some chance my character is not dead, I would not object to playing them in the future.
I like being a happy warlock as well. I like being a happy-go-lucky, like, woo, everything is great, warlock, and like choosing. I think I drive some people mad because I don't min-max at all with Nova, and I think it drives some people insane. I choose abilities that suit her academic nature and her mindset.
She's got a high int score for a warlock.
So but very low wisdom. Because she's just naive and stupid and believes and trusts everyone, including bad dudes. She's like, oh, here, have all our secrets, la la la, I love you, you're my best friend, wait, why are you betraying us? That's how I play the low wisdom. What was I saying? I completely lost my train of thought. I choose these like abilities that I don't think some people even know warlocks have, because they're like the really nice kind of like, or strange mechanics like water breathing. Like you could gift of the depths, you can breathe underwater and things like that.
That's a super cool one, yeah.
But I think it's funny because I think a lot of people play warlocks as the kind of like, I am a dark patron, I am the anarchist of the group, like I'm just gonna worship Satan and
and it's almost too like some of the invocations and stuff are just like too attractive, I would say. Like
yeah.
adding your charisma to Eldritch Blast is something that 99 out of every 100 warlocks grabs, because how can you not? Because it makes it so much better. Good. I am proud of you.
And I get a lot of crap for it. I get
I
much
don't doubt it, because
crap for it.
it's well, I mean, if you're tier listing all their invocations, it's at the top.
Yeah. I get it, right?
Like
I get it, but it's not very Nova. For me,
No.
it's not Nova. Like the kind of things early on that I took were things like Gift of the Eyes of the Runekeeper, so she could read like everything.
Read all writing. Very Nova.
Like the most perfect Nova ability ever, and
they're like, that's not Devil's Sight. What's wrong with you? You can see in darkness. And it's like,
yeah. But also she has Tiangong and Green Flame Blade, so you know she likes to get in there and be like, stab, stab. Now you're on fire. So yeah, I know. Look, I know all of you. We've had long talks about Agonizing Blast, but it's not going to happen. And I'm sorry.
in a one shot, you can play the Sorklock with Agonizing Blast, Eldritch Blasts, and multi-spells.
I'll min-max that.
And then you're like, I cast it 10 times this round.
Yeah.
Are you guys happy?
Yeah. Pew, 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 pew.
Yeah. Oh man.
Yeah.
Do you have? Because I remember one of the things that you sent our way as we were getting ready to put Nova in the game was you had some backstory.
Oh God.
No. I am glad you did. One, because I am somebody who lives for context. I'm like, why is this thing? And so context is great. But also, it made me wonder. I'm like, do you have like an arc that you want for Nova? Like, is there an endpoint or something that you have as a goal in mind?
It's tough right now because the campaign has thrown so many curveballs, and like Nova is pretty stressed right now. Well, actually, no. Where we are right now, I don't want to give too many spoilers, but where we are right now, Nova is living her best life. Like she is, whoa. Like so there were two goals that she had in mind. One was to reunite Tiangong, and I guess return this leader to the eternal race. And the other one was to discover what happened to the Genasi home world. So in Aerois, the city that she's from, Vortensar, was originally on a different planet, but the High Elves in Aerois did some high magic, planar magic no-nos, and accidentally swapped so they banished their city of Jasavir and swapped it with this Genasi city of Vortensar. So she's always imagined, she's wanted to find what happened to Jasavir and where the Genasi homeworld is, and see if she could, I don't know, fix it or kind of create some kind of link between the two worlds so that these Genasi that are stuck on Aerois can maybe find their way to their true home. Although this has been many, many decades. So like she's of the generation of Genasi who were born on Aerois. And right now, I'm really not sure how we can, because we've got two really big bad guys doing really big bad things. And she's pretty conflicted as to how to deal with that. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the thing, is like, what would her perfect ending be? Like, I think outside of solving the problem of the big bad guys and the inevitable heat death of the universe, it would return to Tiangong, and it would return to figuring out the Genasi problem, basically. And ultimately going home to her parents, because she misses her family. Like, she's definitely, like, this is her first big adventure out in the world. She was trying to gain some world experience. And what a journey that's been.
Is it something that, say hypothetically, the Aerois campaign wraps up in, a few years, and you guys have vanquished your foes, but these things haven't happened. Is it something that you would explore through creating other materials, or would you try to set up a one shot where you discover the mystery of something? Like, is it something that you think you would ultimately want to continue past that point? I know this is a very big hypothetical, but I'm just kind of curious.
Yeah, like if I was to do a one shot or something, I'd have to get I'd want to get Mark's permission, because obviously it's his world, it's his characters, so I'd want his blessing, or even if I could just pay him to do it, hold that one shot. I would definitely. So I have written like little stories about some of my characters. So my first character, Juto, I wrote her kind of like part of her like origin story. I wrote a little kind of short story around that. I've written little stories about some of my other characters. So if we never saw that sort of end in the campaign in the live stream, yeah, I definitely probably sit down and put pen to paper and see what came out, obviously depending on where the campaign ends and how much we screwed up the world.
It just makes me, every time I think of the world being messed up, I think of Final Fantasy VI when you
Yeah.
when
Oh
you,
yeah.
where you fail to stop them and the guy busts the world apart and takes
Just
over.
splits it in half, right? Yeah. And that's kind of technically already happened in Aerois. Like we like the sundering is a thing that happened. That's why there's like air cities and things like that, is because during the big war, the gods kind of split the earth to try and save it. Honestly, you should check out some of the like Mark has written. It's it's delicious. It's
I'll
yummy.
probably just PM him and be like, when are you doing your TRPG book? Like, come on, man.
Yeah, well,
like, just poke him a few times. Like,
there's a lot of people asking him that, and I think he's not confident about it because he thinks his notes are too messy. But I don't
everything
know.
starts
I feel like,
somewhere.
exactly. I feel like
his
we can
friend
convince him.
Matt partnered up with somebody to write their first book, and then
Who would that? Yeah,
and then
I know.
they did
This
another
little-known
book a little later that nobody's heard of. So I just thought I'd get into it.
No.
Nah, it doesn't interest anybody. But I mean, there are a lot of experts out there that are within very easy reach for Mark. So I think when he's ready, he'll be like, I need help figuring out how to do this thing, and the support will be there. So,
and I hope he does, because ultimately, like, I think in our campaign with our characters, like, I don't think they, like, Mark provided us with the materials to go and like create these crazy characters like Sentry and Ayla and Quill and Lucius, who you'll see at some point this year. Like, hats off to Mark, really. Hats off to Mark for giving us such a fertile ground to kind of create in, right? But yeah.
It's funny because we always have to do like a translation version of characters to put them in Idle Champions, because like it's in the Forgotten Realms setting. It uses the 5e rule set that's officially published.
Yeah.
We made Rhiannon turn Sentry into a Warforged, and like looks the same, but it's not quite the same thing as the homebrew race in
Guardian
Aerois.
race. Yeah.
So I'm like, wonder what we're gonna have to do to Lucius.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I mean, it might be easier because he's still, he's a high elf, so at least, I think it's just the class, right? The kind of dichromancy sorcerer. Because I was really interested in how you guys kind of changed some things for Nova, because Nova, I suggested some items that were very kind of sci-fi, like the ILS, for those of you who know what the ILS is. But yeah, we had to change that a fair amount to kind of make it fit into the Forgotten Realms. And yeah, I was really interested to see how you guys tailored that. That was fun. I enjoyed that.
Well, you will see in an hour, because we're actually not far from launch. Which reminds me, being respectful of your time, is there anything else you'd like to talk about before we wrap this up?
I mean, can we talk more about Star Trek? Can we do that? Should we just start a side show, like a side podcast about Star Trek, and just do that? I mean,
I'm always down to talk about Star Trek.
I was so excited when it was like, I'm a really big fan of Star Trek. I'm like, thank you, because no one in High Rollers, they're all Star Wars, and I'm like, excuse me.
I mean, they're not mutually exclusive. I do like Star Wars,
but they,
I watched
they're all Star Wars babbies, and I'm a Star Trek babby, and I have no one to talk to Star Trek about.
Well, there's nobody in our office liked any of the new Star Wars films, so they're like Trek. They're just like back to Trek. Like even though Picard wasn't necessarily what they wanted, they all
lovely wholesome Star Trek. Hold me.
Well, they were hoping for wholesome Star Trek, and then we got
misery Star Trek.
Ninjas and decapitations. And,
ninjas. Do you know what? I will say, Elnor, the creation of Elnor and Picard, with his little line of, "Please, friend, choose to live. I was like, I bet the writers like hugged themselves when they came up with that line of like, so dark, so dark. and like I say that with love because that was Juto as well. That was my first character. Like, that was absolutely. I was like, oh, I feel called out with Elnor. I feel absolutely called out here.
I'm just glad that that character will persist.
Yes.
I think there's a little bit of ground. One thing I was happy with about the show, because there's a lot of stuff you can slam about it for a lot of reasons, but I was happy to get the closure that the Nemesis film didn't have with Commander Data. I'm like, yes, thank you for closing that loop. I appreciate you closing that loop.
And that is done. Like, can we move away from... I love Data, but can we move away from Data now? Like, I think that if there's one bugbear I have with Next Gen and the films that followed it, was that it all just became very data-centric. Yep. And I was just like, there's like a whole other crew back here. You know? And
some of them are really interesting.
Yeah.
You know,
Worf.
Not all of them,
Can we make a whole movie about Worf? I want a whole movie about Worf and his like just. I mean, I guess we kind of get that with Deep Space Nine, but like more Worf. I need more Worf in my life.
You get a lot of Worf in Deep Space Nine.
Yeah,
and I feel like his character arc kind of completes in that.
True.
You know, I mean, spoilers for the mid-90s, but he kills Gowron, and like they're like, "You should be Emperor," and he's like, "No."
But sure.
No, like my good drinking buddy here should be Emperor because he would hate that. And his buddy's like, "What?" And then they're like, "You." And so then every time he shows up, he's like, "You and me are drinking because you did this to me."
It's a perfect ending in some ways.
Yeah, at least Worf and O'Brien and Keiko and like a few of the cast members on TNG got to wrap things up. And I'm happy to not see Wesley Crusher.
I just, you know, absolutely no disrespect to Will Wheaton. Like, I'm talking about the character here. I was always very confused about Wesley Crusher. I was always, because I watched it as a young age, and then I rewatched it again recently, and I was like, I still don't know what's happening here. Like, what?
He's kind of a Mary Sue to start, and then when they realized they were doing that, they tried to pivot away, and, like, they gave him some stuff to work with, but, like, ultimately, he didn't really fit in with the show at a lot of times, I thought.
And they made him God then at the end, and I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, all the Traveler stuff I wasn't a fan of. You know what we need? We need a show about Guinan. That's what we need.
Oh, yeah. Well, apparently she's coming in Picard Season 2.
I did see that clip from The View when Patrick Stewart asked her if she wanted to join, and she, like, that was a really giant, genuine smile of happiness.
Yeah. And I love Guinan. Like, absolutely love Guinan.
Fantastic character. And they explained just enough of her.
Yeah. Yeah, I did enjoy seeing a bit more of her in the first movie. Oh god, it was literally The Next Generation, wasn't it?
I think it was just Generations.
Generations, yeah.
With Malcolm McDowell as the bad guy and like the William Shatner cameo and all that stuff. Yeah.
Why does Captain Kirk go up the mountain? Sorry, of all the kind of Star Trek stuff that is just always going on in my head is that he wants to make love to the mountain. Why? William Shatner, why? Anyway,
I think because William Shatner likes the sound of his own voice.
Well, I heard him singing, Common People the other day. I don't know what, it came up on my Spotify random, and it was him singing Common People, and I was like, what fresh hell is this? I want to live like the common people.
He just loves spoken word. I mean, I'm assuming you've seen the video where he performed Rocket Man at the Oscars, and he's like taking long drags of his cigarette in between stuff. Like, yeah, but it's also awesome. But it's bad. But it's awesome.
I want a Star Trek series in his head, because whatever's going on in his head. Oh my gosh. Anyway, we were meant to plug stuff, and we just ended up.
Yes. You guys broadcast
Star Trek.
Curse of Strahd on Thursdays. At times that are not Pacific, so I don't know when it is.
No, they're not. So it's 8 p.m. British summertime, because apparently England's in summer right now, sure. But yeah, BST, 8 p.m. Thursday, BST. And then our Aerois campaign is Sundays, 5 p.m. BST. And yeah, we also have podcast versions of it all. So we live stream, and then we put it up on YouTube, and then we have podcast versions. And we love playing D&D. Like, it's just... so good.
Yeah, it's honestly my favorite thing about the lockdown is I'm DMing 2 campaigns right now, And one of
Okay.
them is a campaign where we play like normally we would play like once every month or two, and
Mhm.
the other one is a campaign where we play just a couple of times a year because they live in another city. And what we would do is we
Right.
would get together and we would spend a whole weekend playing like all day long, 2 days in a row, like taking only breaks for meals and like hanging out in the evenings and stuff. But like
Yeah.
pretty
Nice.
hardcore. And now both those games have become weekly. We play on the same day every
Nice.
week, and it's awesome. It's
Yeah.
yeah, it's something to look forward to when you can't go anywhere.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I think it's definitely high rollers has become our kind of like part of our coping strategy during the week is like, when we've been having all these kind of emotional weeks and feeling very up and down, like it has been kind of like, okay, we get to go and pretend to be a tabaxi grave cleric for an hour, and we get to go and pretend that, I'm an Air Genasi who actually loves everything and isn't the horrible, cynical, burnt out husk I am inside right now.
Is that where those edgelord
Yay.
characters come from?
Probably, yeah. No, I think that was just my repressed teenage goth self, like coming back.
Fair enough. Okay.
Oh my.
Well, yeah. Thanks for joining us, and I hope
Thank you for having me.
I hope viewers have enjoyed this insight into Star Trek: The Nova V'ger generation, um,
And the
and
madness
confirming
that
that
is my mind.
V'ger is V'ger.
Yeah, V'ger, yeah. Of course it is. What else would it? When it's me, it's Star Trek. Just everything goes back to Star Trek.
Fair enough. All right. Thanks a lot, Kim.
Bye, guys.
Hey, everybody. Before I get going too far, I would love for you to let me know if my audio is too loud, because I was messing with levels a lot during that, trying to make sure that the video's audio was at a good level, but I am louder. So I am. This is cranked down significantly from my introduction to today's stream, so I don't want to blow out anybody's ears by talking too loudly. Anyways, hi. That was but a taste of the probably what ended up being like a 2.5 hour call between Kim Richards and I, where we talked a lot about Star Trek, as you could tell, because we both like Star Trek apparently, and also apparently the rest of the High Rollers cast are Star Wars fans but not Star Trek fans. So yeah, Kim and I got on pretty well. She's fun. What can I say? And also, the only High Rollers cast member I haven't met in person, because I met all the rest of them at the Descent last year in LA, but Kim didn't make it. So, yes, Jerbear76, I agree that it is okay to be a fan of both Star Wars and Star Trek. I think entertainment is entertainment, and you like what you like. But I've never understood the one is better than the other. I like this, and therefore the other one sucks. Like liking Star Trek and Star Wars is not mutually exclusive. They are both great in different ways. What can I say? And they both have at times evolved to emulate each other in chunks as well, which I've always found very interesting. Anyways, so here is my campaign map. I've been doing free plays in the event. I was just thinking of doing a Nova free play to Area 50 in the next hour and just seeing what I get. We'll see. Oh, that's weird. It just automatically made the formation I had before. Oh God. Evil. I've been overwhelmed. I don't remember what this formation is, so I'm just doing this a little bit random. Okay, I'm going to close this. My God, stop overwhelming me for a second here, please. Okay, fine. I'm just going to pick stuff and not care, because I don't even think this was the formation that I was using. I think this was the formation I was using. Yeah. Good Lord. that moment when it tries to restart the crazy formation that you had running before. We need more emotes involving me. We could. So basically, the way that Twitch and the partner affiliation and all that stuff works is that you get a number of emote slots based on the number of people who subscribe and how many viewers and stuff you have. And so we only have a handful, but we currently have 5 shows. We did 2 emotes just for the Ding Dong Hello Sean thing. We have plans for an additional emote or 2 for each of the other shows, but we actually don't have enough slots for that. So, yeah. Yes, there are bit emotes, Garwar, but that's a bit of a rabbit hole that we're not sure how far we want to go down, because making emotes from scratch does take up somebody's time, and we be busy. So it's we don't always have time to do something about it. Anyways, what do we have here? Effect. Faster attacks. I don't even know. I'm just going to get rid of all my familiars. Oh, that's so weird. I've never seen that one before. That is a weird bug that I'm seeing on stream where I can't seem to remove my familiars. This one's new to me. Anyways, fascinating, as Leonard Nimoy would say. I don't even know if I picked the right stuff, but this is like a weird, janky formation with an Artemis tank where he's the DPS and was. I made this one just kind of experimenting with Artemis DPS formations just to see them. I'm sure it's not optimal because I haven't. I haven't done enough experimentation with Nova yet. Yeah. There were a number of comments during the interview, and it's kind of a weird thing for us where obviously there's the pre-recorded content playing for 57 and a half minutes or so, and then like I'm in chat obviously, but the downside to having to pre-record it obviously is that you don't get the interaction between chat and asking Kim questions unless you hopped on her Nova Unlock stream yesterday, because Kim did that on the High Rollers D&D channel with Katie and Rhiannon in chat with her. But yeah, I welcome your questions. I see one from Garwar. It was stated in this week's Q&A that Nova's Ultimate is intended to not drop monster hearts if it kills monsters. What is the reasoning behind not keeping Ultimates consistent in-game in terms of them triggering champion-based abilities? Mako's Ultimate triggers Dark Luck rewards, for instance. That is a question that I would need Justin to answer, and he is unfortunately not available. Not just because we're remote, but because Justin has a number of appointments this week that take him out of the office, and he's actually not available. But that is a very good question for a design question. I do know that, we get a lot of feedback about consistency of different spells and abilities, and sometimes it's because we had intended to be consistent and we just didn't get to it, and other times it's because we genuinely want to. What's the word I'm looking for? Just vary things up, I guess. We don't want to do the same thing every single time. So, yeah. Severic, did you look into the weird adjacency issues in this formation with the back column? That should be fixed now. You might want to check to make sure that you have the latest version of the game. Alrighty. There are only 4 more Year 3 events left. You've previously stated Year 1 champions will be retired from Year 4 events. Is this still the plan? And is there anything you could share with us about Year 4 events beyond that? It is still the plan to have the Year 1 event removed from events as we go into Year 4, and so it'll be 2, 3, and 4 available. Players will still be able to access Year 1 champions through time gates. And that's kind of where it has sat. That's one of those things that we're hoping to kind of iron out pretty soon. Right now, what we are focused on is our major updates for the rest of June and July. And then the development timelines for things have shuffled around now that we're on Switch, just because it's yet another platform that we're on, sure, and we're very happy to be there because Nintendo Switches are awesome, and it's awesome to be there. But what it means is that we have another company to certify our builds and get everything ready for, and the development timelines for Switch are significantly longer than other platforms, which means that things end up being built for the game much sooner. And so right now, yeah, we're working actively on stuff in August and September for different parts of the game, while also trying to get builds ready for all the platforms. And it's yeah. Which is to say, not to dodge the question, that's not really my intent here, but just trying to give more context on, we are going to further define what Year 4 events are, and we're going to share that information closer to the start of Year 4 events. But yeah, the current plan is that the Year 1 champion part of events will retire. Larry29, how can a new player like me pass the last Nova variant? So the variant that requires high intelligence champions. So that is an extremely challenging variant. The core champions do not offer a lot of high intelligence champions. And so yeah, you need a lot of event champions in order to make that variant easy. Oh, excuse me. God, indigestion. So, as a new player, the easiest thing for you to do would be to, try and get some other intelligence-based champions in time gates, just as an outset, unless you want to, make a purchase of some other characters. And keep in mind that if you're attempting to get all of the achievements, that opening a time gate for Nova after this event is over will also be possible. So if you've missed a variant, you will be able to get back to it before 1 year has passed. Although the third variant that you get access to, or the variant in the time gates, is random, you will get other opportunities to complete that achievement. Will Delina ever be a thing? I don't know that Delina is completely not a thing now, so much as, yes, obviously Zorbu is king, and let's kind of put that aside and ignore him for a moment. The game has grown to a point where you can complete a lot of the content of the game using Delina first and foremost. What you can't really do is do a Delina-focused formation that will push to the very furthest reaches of your whatever adventures you're trying to push to your wall, because she just doesn't have as good of a support network to make that happen. Does that mean that we won't look at her again? No. It's we were very happy with her design when the Year 1 or the Core Champion balance update came out, and it just hasn't quite hit the mark. And we're still happy with the design, but we acknowledge that it hasn't quite hit the mark. So, we will probably look at her again at some point, but it's not a high priority for us right now. I know that when I was doing those Raven variants, and when I was thinking about a champion that can clear an entire screen of enemies really quickly, Delina is absolutely one of those, because she can twin a lightning bolt across, killing huge swarms of enemies, and then bring down an ice storm that kills another huge group. She can clear an entire screen really quickly. So if she was top tier, she might be kind of insanely bonkers. I don't think she requires that much in order to get to ridiculously good. So we'll have to be we'll have to be careful with changes that we do make to her. Question on the Patron Vajra. Any plans to have a champion that is a pure DPS female lawful and Constitution score of 14? There are only 2 DPS support champions that fit that criteria of this patron's local perks. That is a good flag. So, yeah, I can't really answer that in terms of who is coming up or what our plans are around specific characters. But what I can do is make sure that I pass that along to the people who are working on those things to make sure that they are aware. So I'll pass that along to Chris and Justin. Aren't 100% of Garwar's questions Justin level questions? Yes and no. The real challenge right now is that now that we all work remotely, people who do marketing and streaming like myself are no longer able to hear the conversations about different aspects of the game or participate in the meetings about the development of different aspects of the game in the same way that we were when we were all in an office together. Like, it used to be that if something came up, you could hear the person 10 feet away discussing it as I cut off my arm into the void. And what it did was it did a much better job of keeping us in the loop about these things than what happens now, where we have to follow up and we have to hopefully the person is at their desk at the moment that you send them a message, kind of thing, and hopefully they aren't in a video conference meeting, because we get pulled in a lot of different directions now working remotely, and so it just makes it much more difficult to stay in the loop about different aspects. That's really it. So a lot of Garwar's questions are Justin level questions, because Garwar has been around since for a long time. He's been a part of our community for quite some time, and so his knowledge of the game is very deep. And so, of course, that will come with him having questions that are maybe a little bit more detailed and challenging than somebody like myself is able to answer easily. Let's see. If year one champions are retired for events, how will you get the Adventures achievement, or will that 1% bonus be gifted? That's not really a discussion that we're going to get into right now, Omorden 71. When we have our a more defined blueprint of what all the year 4 events are going to look like, then we will put together a dev blog being like, this is how year 4 events are going to look. These are how each of these pieces are going to fit together, and where you'll be able to get different things. And, I'm just going to make a note to make sure that question is addressed in that Q&A when we get to that point, but we're not there yet. So there isn't a defined enough system for me to give you an update on. Xenogard, are we going to see more of the Beyond Hero / Silver and Steel characters in the future? Absolutely. Yes, you are. Does anybody remember what I selected for Morgaine? How about, I don't know, 75% for adjacency? I'll just pick that, because even though that's not really an ideal spot for Morgaine, I don't know. I can't remember what I picked before, because Windows kept showing up. I'm just kind of looking through the questions list I got here. I already read the, are we going to see more Beyond Hero, Silver and Steel? Yes, we are. Absolutely. Some sooner than you might think. Speaking of Nova's last variant, is it intentional that this event is extremely unforgiving for new players? Both Nova and Binwin have 3 tank lines. The OK variant for Korth, the durable dragon variant, is also tougher than many, and then Nova's high intelligence variant combines to be a pretty brutal experience. That's a coincidence. It's not intentional that Dragon Down is the difficult event each year, but I will pass that feedback along. Just to make sure that it's heard by the developers and folks responsible. Let's see. Elphagris, what are your thoughts on the bugs from last week that permitted people to reach Area 100 with huge amounts of favor and achievements unlocked, and the new trick that does the same this week? To people who do not want to cheat, seeing no reaction from C&E is confusing, or maybe I missed it and I apologize. Hard to ask this without sounding like an attack. I assure you it is not. No offense taken. There were some unintended interactions that, appeared. A wild bug appeared. That has been patched out on Steam as of today, and the builds that fix those bugs are going out to other platforms. I know that, it certainly brings to light our Area 1100 auto banner, because I know that there are some folks who didn't intend to hit that. While I'm sure there's some other folks who are, going with the time trusted philosophy of exploit early, exploit often, and get what you can while you can. Then ride that line a little bit too far. I'm like, blink, like they got up to go to the bathroom and they hit 1100 or something. If anybody was locked out that way, you have to shoot us an email in order to get that sorted if you get that message when you boot up the game. But otherwise, it's fixed on Steam. Questions about bugs are kind of interesting in the fact that obviously no bugs are ever intended to go out. Like that's nobody tries to make a buggy product. We do our testing, we do our internal QA. Yes, we do have that. I know what some players might think, but we do that. And at the end of the day, the developer testing environment is a little different than the live environment, and sometimes that transition can manifest some really interesting things. We're on it. Alrighty. Will there be a way, perhaps in the time gate screen, to see what the cooldown is on the next epic from a character's chest? Prioritizing a character with 3 or fewer might be a wise choice in some circumstances. Okay, so you're asking if when you open a time gate, you will be able to see what the epic pity timer is for individual champions, as well as what kind of loot and stuff they have. That's not a feature that we've ever had planned in development, but I can pass the feedback along, and who knows, that might be something that can be implemented. Ignore my typing sound as I'm making my notes. Let's see. Fairly new player here. Is there a way to continue tracking the Black Viper's Red Jewel collection total after you surpass her achievements threshold of 300? Yes, but not unless you have her unlocked. Because basically in order to check it from here on out, you'll need to unlock Black Viper and then switch over to her screen. So what slot is she? Is she in this one? Yeah, so level her up a bit. Collector. Boom. So now when you go to her character screen, it says... Apparently I am at 3,274. But you have to have her unlocked and upgraded high enough in order to see it. Anyways, Caddy Bree, because I always use Caddy Bree, and I rarely use Black Viper. Why Vernie Win? Are the Champion of Renown DLC packs permanently available or limited time like the Founders Pack? That is a great question for Chris. So some of our DLC packs are limited time in the sense that we retire them on an annual basis. So we did a retiring last year leading into our second anniversary celebration, or our third anniversary celebration. And so the Founders Pack was retired, and some of our familiar packs were retired. That will happen again, but what I don't have right now is details on specifically what DLCs will be a part of that. Like last time, we will give notice on when we're planning on doing it in advance, so that if players want to make a purchase, they are able to. I believe the intent for the Champions of Renown pack, what is it? I don't think I have updated info on what our plan is with those. We did a year 1 one, we did a year 2 one. There's a good chance we'll do a year 3 one as well once year 3 has wrapped up. But I don't know if we're planning on retiring those. That might simply be a discussion we haven't had yet. Question. It's probably a low priority, but is there a possibility of viewing your chests while you're not in a run, if you're just using the campaign map, for instance? I don't know if there's a possibility of that, Tao's Sheech. Because just the way that the game is designed, I don't know if that's something that is ever planning to be implemented. I can pass the idea along because it certainly echoes some of the feedback we have received related to just making sure I write down the right person for feedback. it echoes some feedback that we have received before about what people can see and access from the campaign map, but it certainly isn't something that has been planned to address, because you tend to spend almost all of your time in adventures, which is where you can actually access everything from. What is the point of resetting favor? Well, Mighty Moyan, excuse me, that is a great question. The TLDR is that every time you reset an adventure, you complete an adventure, or you reset an adventure in advance, your divine favor is increased by the amount that you accumulated over the course of that run. And divine favor allows you to radically increase the amount of gold that you earn from killing monsters. So, when you start with no favor and you kill the first monster and he drops 1 gold, that's no favor. But if you increase that by thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of thousands, billion, trillion, etc., of percents, that 1 gold becomes a much higher number, allowing you to, start an adventure and purchase all 10 of your champions in the first run, all the way up to slot 12. You can build your formation right away. You can level them up quite far and set them up to get much further before you need to check in on the game again. It also allows you to more easily get to your soft cap, the point at which you no longer earn upgrades for characters that you're leveling up, before you hit your wall. And so that's that's the point of resetting your favor, or resetting and divine favor. Resetting your favor back to 0, I'm assuming you mean on like a campaign blessing screen or something. That's just to allow you to change things around if you don't like the purchase that you made. So, yeah, it allows you to what's the word? Redistribute your blessings if you don't like the purchase that you made with them. Batil Gift Gert. Delina is awesome. Her destiny was to make the creators program the animation of her ice storm auto attack so they can copy and paste it to Gromma's auto attack. And if you choose Circle of the Arctic as a specialization, please do that. That's so funny. That's funny. Gromma's Gromma's still really good. So I don't know that we would do that, because that would make her so categorically bonkers. Yeah. Real Japesy. So PS5 release coming or not? I actually so I'm not in a position to ever really comment on potential future platform releases. Yeah. And I am also, as we've been streaming for the last 90 minutes or so, I am very much looking forward to checking out the VOD of the PS5 release event after this is over. When I get some other work done. K-Dot. What I'd like to see is to view the patron challenges on the campaign map to see what I'm still missing. Okay, yeah, that's very similar to the viewing your chest on the campaign map. So this is more. I will pass this along. I don't know if there's anything QOL related that we're planning to do around that subject, but I'll pass it on. Let's see. Wyverny Win. Warriors of Waterdeep released official character sheets through D&D Beyond for their original characters last week. Have you considered doing that for your C&E original characters? Yeah, that's an interesting question. So we don't have an official initiative related to it. When we were making Warden as a character, I guess I was the one who did the first overview pass on Warden's design, and wrote their backstory and all that stuff. I did make a character sheet for them on D&D Beyond, and it was shared in the Warden Champion Spotlight. Now, what we haven't done is do character sheets for all of the other C&E original champions, but we could. Yeah, is that something that would really interest players? Are you guys wanting to see it? In most cases, our characters are intended to be level 8. So if you guys really want to see D&D Beyond character sheets for everybody, fun fact, we actually have some of them already made. So, yeah, okay. I will make a note for me actually, because that would probably be something I end up doing. So I'll just I will get to that. Alrighty. Elder Nesala. Why can't some characters increase their stacks in offline progress? I definitely need you to be more specific, because offline progress simulates play, but it doesn't simulate 100% of every aspect of play. So, but I definitely need more context around that question. Like, are there characters? Are there discrepancies that you are seeing between different character stacking abilities and stuff in online play? I'm just curious. Like, I need a little bit more detail for the question to try and answer it more clearly. Any chances of getting a pause button? Certain variants, such as Never Split the Party, require you to redo your formation regularly, but trying to fix a formation at Area 375 with no tank to even let you look before you get pushed back and can't look anymore is quite a hassle. That's an interesting bit of feedback. Yeah, I don't know what it would require from a developer perspective to implement a pause. I know that if a character is considered to be under attack by an enemy, you are unable to swap them. So even if there was a pause button, like, that restriction would probably still apply. If, like, your tank is in the midst of getting hit, you can't pause it, swap them to somebody else to take the hit, and then swap back again afterwards or something like that. But I will pass the concept along and the reasoning. Yeah. No, I get that that's not the issue, Garwar, but you go to the area and suddenly your tank is not there because maybe they get removed, and then, like, you just get wiped right away. Like, you're wanting a pause button to be able to reevaluate and make an adjustment to your formation if what's available swaps around. So I'm not sure what's possible with that. Admiral Road. Dylan, a time gate piece just dropped from a boss. Congratulations. Is this usual? And if so, how often does it occur? Never seen it happen before. It happens every, I want to say, it's either 4 to 5 days, I think, is the frequency that they drop. Basically, there's a server timer where a time gate piece can drop from a boss after a certain amount of time. Basically, so you can get a little bit more than one a week on average. Yeah. Yeah, I understand that that's the previous question about the pause button is a little bit more complex in that because what's available swaps when you hit over into that area. It's a frantic attempt to reorganize your formation in order to try and make it viable again. If, for example, you lose all your tanks, because as soon as enemies get to your non-tanks, they just start killing them. I'll pass that along. It's an interesting discussion I hadn't personally thought about very much, because what I've done to date is just frantically panicked trying to put a formation together. Idle champions on Alexa waiting for it. Ugh. That's unlikely. Is there a way to restart the stage you're on? Currently, to restart a stage, I have to leave the stage and come back. No, just to leave and go back. So you can go back one area and then come back again. There's no button to restart the one that you're already on. All right, I need some water because I keep... Kuvu plan. Another possible use of a pause button is to get your initial party set up and leveled. I've been having trouble getting Black Viper, Jaheira, and Nova out on the field and leveled before the first boss falls. I mean, if you're at the point where you're purchasing up to slot 11 before the first boss, I'm not sure that the first boss can kill any of your characters if you're leveled up that high. What hero would you recommend spamming for in the time gates? From Jethador. Well, I mean, there is a 5-letter answer to that, and the answer is Krull. Krull is the single best champion purchase, allowing you to make the most progress with the single champion that you've grabbed. After that, you'll probably want to grab Zorbu, who is currently top dog in terms of DPS champions with an infinitely scaling ability that allows him to get better forever, which is super good. After that, one of the top buffers by far is Averin, slot 11, because his buffing ability is really fantastic. So Krull, Zorbu, and then Averin in that order would probably be my suggestion for a brand new player in terms of just immediately, start making significant progress. You do kind of eventually want everybody, because what you want is for when a variant comes out that comes up with a unique, restriction, that you are able to field an entire party of champions in order to try and overcome it. And Nova seems pretty solid. As Averin's still more better. So it depends on how new of a player you are, Dead Air. Nova is a pretty fantastic character if you are new to the game, because like the latest champions, like the year 3 champions, tend to be categorically extremely good compared to base champions. And so the newer you are of a player, and the lower ultimately the overall equipment quality is for everybody else that you have, the more that a year 3 character will stand out for you. Averin is an amazing buffer. Nova is actually a pretty darn good tank and a surprisingly strong support. Not as good of a support as Averin, but again is another tank. So you'll notice Nova more in things like trying to do Curse of Strahd variants, in that you want an intellect tank, and Dragonbait is good, but Nova is also really good. Varied things make a difference. Variety is the key to success, really. How chaotic are you expecting today's episode of Narrative Telephone after Ashley Johnson tweeted the gif of the girl looking back after a fire? I mean, I haven't actually seen any of that, because I haven't really been on social media much today. I've been head down trying to get a bunch of stuff done. How chaotic do I expect Narrative Telephone to be? I don't know. I haven't been following Narrative Telephone. When Critical Role started taking their break, I stopped paying as much attention to what they were doing, to be honest. And then there's been so much going on in the world, and let me just take a moment to take a moment, take a breath, re-welcome you back to the stream, since we have been streaming for a little over an hour and a half now, and there is so much going on that what I have found personally is that I have to limit the number of channels, I guess you could say, that I tune into in order to pay attention to the things that matter to me the most. So, as somebody who, as you can tell, is a mixed race, I have been paying very, very close attention to, the protesting and a lot of that stuff that's been happening. If anybody follows me on social media, I'm not going to plug my social media, but I've pretty much only exclusively been retweeting stuff related to the ongoing protests and civil unrest, protesting against injustice and, defunding police and all that stuff. And I'm not going to get into a political discussion about any of that here, because that's not why anybody tuned into this show. Though I will happily, engage in that in other contexts. This just isn't the place for it. But because of that, and because I have a child that's a little more than 4 months old, and my wife is taking 18 months off work in order to be there for the first 18 months of, our child's life, and the way that those things have shifted around, I find that my focus is first and foremost, my family and my stuff at home, and then as much extra capacity as I have goes towards engaging with and paying attention to the the protests and the civil unrest, and trying to figure out where to donate money for the causes that I believe in. And then, also we are still in the midst of a global pandemic. And so trying to pay attention to that too and not forget that it's happening because, there's the great big shining new thing going on as well. And so because of that, a lot of things that I used to pay attention to or, followed before, I haven't been. Yeah, I haven't. So I haven't been following Critical Role or what they've been doing or their Twitter or any of that stuff. And, I've been trying to add my voice or my ability to amplify voices to things that matter more to me personally. We're in a real transitory global moment, I know a lot of folks are eager to get back to normal, whatever that is for you. But there are a lot of folks who are not because normal was not okay before. So, it's a lot. And it can be a lot and it can be overwhelming. Anyways, moving on from that. No, I haven't been paying attention to Critical Role. Yeah. Max Level Zero, I appreciate when people keep politics away from entertainment, let fans from all sides enjoy entertainment together and make friendships. I'm not going to get into that, but that's a statement that, like, I get that everybody wants entertainment and wants to be able to be entertained, like that it'd be, especially now, pandemic and everything else that's been happening, like entertainment, something to take your mind off of whatever else is an important and valuable thing. And I think that, making video games, making television shows, making movies, producing entertainment is important. It is a fundamentally good thing. Making people happy, contributing to people's happiness is a good thing. But at the same time, I think that for some things to change, people have to, be inconvenienced. That's what protesting does. Like protesting and movements and, inconveniencing people is what draws attention towards things that matter to people. And so, while I might not always like it, it works. It gets attention. Like there are changes happening all over the world right now because of inconvenience, because messages are showing up in places that people are used to getting away from them. So, yeah. Anyways, I could get sucked into that rabbit hole for a long time. The pause button for Black Viper / Jahira / Nova is to get the boss collectibles as the number of bosses is limited. I see. Yeah. That's an interesting concept. So that is the third or fourth question and topic around pausing that we've gotten lately, and I will pass that feedback along. Yeah, and thank you, by the way, for not just asking these questions, because I do appreciate the questions, because we want feedback from you in order to improve our game and make our experience better for all players. But also, context matters a lot. Like, it's one thing to say, hey, can you change X, or can you make an adjustment to Y? But being like, hey, this is the issue that I'm running into, that I'm trying to get around, and this is how I see it, and this is what I'm trying to do, and all that extra context and reasoning and your rationale behind why you like a change matters a lot to us, because it helps us to better identify the issue, because maybe the suggestion that you have in that moment is tied to something else that we're developing, but we don't know how that thing could be adjusted or help the thing that you're talking about. I don't know how much that makes sense, because I'm being vague and I'm trying not to get into something that I shouldn't talk about, but yeah, it's you never know when it'll help. So context, good. More detailed descriptions, good. When you send us a bug report or a suggestion or whatever, the more that you can do to reinforce that, the better. Any chances of putting the monster brain in the loot bag so Nova can work with Briv? I don't know that that's something that we've ever intended. I can pass that along. Are these little messages that pop up whenever a champion upgrades new? Have they always been there? I feel like I've never seen them. Yeah, no, they've been there for a very long time. Yeah. All my champions as well, like they all have familiars on them, so they're constantly buying the upgrades, and it's just kind of ticking up. But yeah, those little messages are old. Well, old. They've been around for a while. Are you planning to watch/play in D&D Live 2020, Dylan, or is that work time? I don't think I will be asked to play in anything related to D&D Live. I got the distinct impression from everything that they set up for their like Red Nose Day D&D Live thing that it is very much focused on drawing as much attention towards their Red Nose Day and their cause as possible. And so I'm not somebody who draws any attention to that, really. Not compared to, Thomas Middleditch or, any of the other folks that they have lined up. I mean, I think they have like 5 WWE superstars lined up for one game, like my following is like 800 people on Twitter or something. And that's all from back when I used to work on events and stuff, which I don't do anymore. So, yeah. I will probably have that stream on and at the very least be listening in when I can. But, if it's during the work week, I tend to be busy. And if I'm not there, I'm not there. Yeah. Sad to not be at D&D Live this year, but it is what it is. Broadface Killer. I don't have a question, but I would like to say I love playing this game and enjoy all the different C&E streams. Keep up the good work. Oh, thank you. Thanks a lot. Elder Nisala, returning to stacks, how can we be sure that Walnut's documenter and jobs done work properly in offline play? Because offline is supposed to be a simulation of online play, I expect offline play to easily kill a farmable boss as much as I do online play. But when I got Walnut in my formation, the frequency would say otherwise. But is it because boss battles work differently in offline play? I would need to get Peter for that, I think, actually. Was it Peter who made offline? No, Mark? I don't have the detail or the insight into how all of those how that system simulates play in order to answer that. So I'm going to make a note for devs because I don't have that info. Please give every character a health bar. It would fit in really easily. That's a good question because, or a good, I guess, statement. We've had a lot of questions related to health bars over the years, and yeah, I'll make another note on that because it's good to bring things up repeatedly, I guess is the thing I should say. Is there any specific reason you don't run 3 familiars clicking on the field in order to auto pick up quest items? Is there a downside that I don't know about? Oh, no. Honestly, I just threw this formation together quickly, and I didn't put any familiars down on the field. I can change that. There we go. Can I go with the cuter ones, please? There we go. And hell, I'll even use one of these so that they explode everything as it comes up. And so now our characters won't even barely get to attack anything because the familiars will just annihilate it. Blap. Oh, man. Krull. Krull has entered the chat. Oh. Chat is cheering Krull on. It's hard not to. I got to say that when Krull was revealed, I was very excited. Oh, did you just glitch out? Here, let me put you back in again. There we go. I just love the design. I don't know. I remember when Max Dunbar... Was it Max Dunbar who first shared the art, or was it Joe Manganiello who first shared the art? But I remember the art was shared. I'm like, that is the coolest looking turtle I've ever seen. And yeah, I actually made a character on my D&D Beyond because I was trying to figure out a way, like, Krull is pretty metal, but could he be more metal? Because, you know, he's got a spiky shell. He's a little bit like a snapping turtle. He's got some, like, gothic looking stuff in his two thing. But, like, at the end of the day, he's a death domain cleric. And, like, I don't know. I mean, he could be more metal, right? And so, approaching the how do you make Krull more metal, I made a turtle paladin warlock that is and I think it's Oathbreaker and what is it? I'm a huge nerd, and this is the kind of thing that I spend, you know, some of my afternoons doing. What did I name the character? I named them Tartarus, and they are a level 8. What kind of paladin are they? I have to double check. A level 8 Oathbreaker paladin, because I wanted them to have Aura of Hate, so they get a bonus to melee damage equal to their charisma. And then a 12th level Fiend Warlock, because you could still get a lot of the melee warlock stuff. And Fiend Locks get like temporary hit points when they kill things and stuff. And so because he has Pact of the Blade and what is it? So he'll have he has Life Drinker. That means that he gets his charisma bonus on every melee attack twice. And because he has got Eldritch Smite and Divine Smite and 5th level spell slots, which is where your Divine Smite and Eldritch Smite, your Divine Smite caps out, he can hit something in melee twice, each time getting plus 10 to hit. Which, if you are if you've got a plus 3 weapon, that's plus 15 to hit, or plus 15 to damage on whatever you roll. And so if you had a battle axe plus 3, and you attacked twice in a round, that's 1d8 plus 15 twice. And if you have Eldritch Smite and Divine Smite, you get your 68 twice on one hit. But because you can do things like hold person, or you can get a crit if you get advantage. But if you can hold stun somebody so that you get guaranteed crits, it's something like 24d8 plus 4d8 plus 30 plus whatever. It just it gets bonkers. Like you can do hundreds of damage in a single round with them. But yeah, Turtle Oathbreaker Paladin / Fiend Patron Warlock. Just absolutely ridiculous. That was a fun exercise in trying to figure out how I could make a character that's insane. But also more metal than just a simple Death Domain cleric. Alrighty. Dumb question, but is it better to always push the wall while completing adventures, or just reset when, for example, stage 50 has been completed? K-Zinc, it really depends on how much time you have and what you're trying to accomplish with it, because if you're doing a free play and you're trying to earn chests, getting to 50 and resetting isn't the worst thing to do, provided you have the tokens for it. But in general, you kind of want to push all the way to your wall every time you can with anything, if time permits, because then you're also making meaningful increases, hopefully, to your divine favor. We need Toragar to complete the trifecta. I agree, Curse 1731. Toragar, what is it, Steel Fist, is going to be awesome. I'm excited. And then for the last question, as we get close to 2:55 and start to wrap everything up, Donut Mind Me. How is progress going on Modron automation? Not asking for a date, but is it going as well as expected? The only thing I can say about it is that it is definitely being worked on. Yeah, is definitely being worked on, and we hope to have something available for people to test soon. But yeah, it's being worked on. We don't want to get too far into it until it's actually something that's almost ready. Anyways, this has been our show for Thursday, June 11th, 2020. Thank you so much to Kim Richards for taking the time to chat with me last week, allowing us to record it and letting us broadcast the interview this week. Nova V'ger is an awesome character who has my favorite aesthetic design out of the Aerois ones. No offense to anybody else, but it's just the uniform choice goggles, blue Genasi, and like the gradient in her hair and all that stuff is awesome. I've been looking forward to Nova coming to the game since we knew that High Rollers characters were coming at the beginning of last year. So yeah, huge shout out to Kim for that. Shout outs as well to Erica and Jay for helping to moderate and co-produce the stream with me. They've been running the giveaways in chat. Shout out to everybody in chat for joining me. It is, it has been really nice to have you take some time out of your day, wherever you are, whatever may be going on for you, and spend it with us, talking about D&D and video games and a tiny bit about social issues. Shout outs as well to our friends at D&D, Greg, Bart, Pelham, Shawling, Lisa, I'm probably Allison. Did I remember Allison? The list of folks that we interact with on a regular basis. I know they have a really big week next week, and so, Godspeed to them. Please please watch Star Trek. We hope that you enjoy the rest of Dragon Down 3, this going into the last weekend of it, and are as excited as we are for D&D Live next week. Do what you can to be safe, support the people and things that you love, and take care. Have a great weekend, everybody. Cheers.